You know, the world of Fallout is so much more than just fighting super mutants in a nuclear wasteland. It's this massive, funny, and honestly pretty brutal takedown of the very idea that got it destroyed in the first place, the American dream. So let's fire up our Pip-Boys and really dig into how this post-nuclear world holds a cracked mirror up to our own. War never changes. I mean, that one line kicks off pretty much every game in the series. And look, it's not just some cool catchphrase, it's the entire thesis. It tells you right from the jump that you're entering a world where history is just stuck on a loop, where people are absolutely doomed to repeat their worst mistakes, no matter how shiny the new tech gets. So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at that shiny, super optimistic vision of the world before the bombs fell. Then we'll start digging and uncover the absolute rot hiding right underneath. After that, we'll see how people tried and failed to rebuild society. And finally, we'll explore how the entire game world is basically set up as a museum of American failure. All right, so first things first, to get Fallout, you have to understand the world that was lost. The pre-war America in these games is just a masterpiece of world building. It's like society was flash frozen in the cultural vibe of the 1950s, but somehow it's all powered by this wild atomic age technology. The entire look and feel of the game is built on this one idea: retrofuturism. It's the future as people in the past thought it would be. And this isn't just a cool art style, you know? It's a genius narrative tool. By showing us the 1950s version of tomorrow, the game gets to directly critique all the hopes, the fears, and the completely unchecked ambitions of that time. And you see this everywhere in the game's look, which is called Googie architecture. I mean, think of those old diners with the sweeping roofs that look like they're about to take off, or all the starbursts and atomic symbols on everything. It's the style of a culture that 100% believed it was about to conquer space, totally unaware that it was about to drive its nuclear-powered car right off a cliff. And that leads us to the heart of the conflict, right? The promise of that pre-war world was this amazing technological paradise, a robot butler in every home, a fusion-powered car in every garage, but the reality, the world you actually play in, is the direct, horrifying result of that promise. The chase for unlimited atomic power didn't create a utopia. It created a graveyard. So you have to ask yourself, where did it all go so horribly wrong? Well, let's start peeling back the first layer of that perfect, happy facade and take a look at the very institutions that promised to save America, but were actually its greatest villains. So, let's talk about Vault-Tec. To the public, these guys were the saviors of humanity. They built more than 100 of these massive underground vaults to shield everyone from nuclear fire. But the truth is so much darker. The vaults were never really designed to save people. They were twisted, secret laboratories for some of the most cruel and unethical social experiments imaginable. I mean, the level of evil here is just staggering. In Vault 75, they literally murdered parents to try and breed a master race from their kids. In Vault 34, they just crammed way too many people inside with a wide-open armory, basically just to see what would happen. And Vault 106, they just decided to pump mind-altering drugs into the air and drive everyone insane. This wasn't science, it was government-funded torture. It's a really chilling thought, isn't it? But it begs a huge question. If a company like Vault-Tec was doing all of this, who was writing the checks? I mean, what kind of government would not only allow this to happen, but actively pay for it? And the answer to that is the Enclave. And here's the kicker. They weren't just part of the US government. For all intents and purposes, they were the government. They were this secret club of CEOs, top military brass, and political insiders who had basically pulled off a silent coup, running the country as a fascist shadow state long before any bombs started falling. The whole ideology of the Enclave was built on this one bone-chilling idea that they were the only true, pure-blooded Americans left. They operated in complete secrecy, using all the patriotic propaganda to keep up the appearance of a normal government fighting the good fight against communism. But behind the curtain, they saw everyone else, all the millions of people left to die on the surface, as genetically tainted mutants. To the Enclave, the apocalypse wasn't a tragedy. It was a purification, a chance to wipe the board clean and rebuild America in their own twisted image. Okay, so with the old world's institutions exposed as this total corrupt sham, you have to wonder, how do the survivors do when they try to rebuild? Well, out in the wasteland, new societies start to pop up, but they're all haunted by the ghosts of the old world's political failures. Fallout New Vegas is the perfect example of this. On one hand, you've got the new California Republic, the NCR. They're trying to rebuild old school American democracy, right? But they just end up repeating all its worst mistakes, becoming this bloated, bureaucratic empire. Then you have Mr. House, a dictator who offers you safety and technology, but you have to give up all your freedom. And finally, there's the yes man route, which is just total anarchy. Sure, you're independent, but everything quickly spirals into violence and chaos. And this is the choice the game forces on you. Every path is a flawed system dragged out of the history books. The NCR is a failing democracy, Mr. House is a high-tech dictatorship, and anarchy is, well, anarchy. The game makes you pick a side, but it's crystal clear that there are no perfect solutions here, just different flavors of broken. This brings us to our final section, and this is really where it all comes together. The whole argument is that Fallout isn't just a game that happens after history. The entire world is a commentary on history. It's like a broken, interactive museum. Seriously, think about it. Every single place you explore, whether it's a bombed-out elementary school or a crumbling national monument, it's an exhibit. The developers have carefully curated this entire wasteland to tell a very specific story. And it's a story that is constantly tearing down the patriotic, rah-rah myths of pre-war America. And you can see a perfect example of this right here. This is the Boomers mural. This is their history, the story they tell themselves, this glorious, heroic journey. But it's not what really happened. It's a piece of propaganda they made to reinforce their own identity and to justify walling themselves off from the entire world. And the satire here is just razor sharp. The way the Boomers don't trust anyone outside their fence, their obsession with old world tech like that giant bomber, and how aggressive they are, it's all a direct jab at the stereotypes of the generation that grew up in those paranoid, isolated suburbs of Cold War America. What this is all attacking is a really common way we think about the past. It's called teleological history. Now, that's a fancy term for a really simple idea, that history is a straight line, always progressing, always moving toward a better, more civilized future. Traditional museums a lot of the time push this idea. Fallout, though, Fallout absolutely destroys it. The future in Fallout isn't an upgrade. It's a ruin. All those decaying monuments and broken museum exhibits aren't just background scenery. They're the central metaphor of the entire series. They're there to show you that the future didn't escape the past's problems. It's the direct, disastrous consequence of them. So, when you put it all together, that failed promise of a perfect future, the deep-seated corruption of its institutions, the constant political failures, and a world that's basically a museum to all that failure, what you get is a complete and total deconstruction of the American dream. In the end, the series seems to say that the only way forward is to learn from the past, but refuse to be trapped by it. But it leaves us with this one really haunting question. When you're literally living among the ruins of the old world, surrounded by its ghosts and repeating its worst mistakes, is escaping the past even possible?